Okay, back on to lose a dress size and the 30-day challenge. Thank you so much for having me this morning, everyone. It was a real pleasure to chat with you. There were some great questions asked, and I know we ran out of time to practice some Qigong, so thank you for allowing me to create this little short video for you. Now, I will try and get this done in 15 minutes, but I do really like to talk, so there is a good chance it'll go a little bit longer because for such a simple exercise, there are quite a lot of profound physical cues that we must go through, and this can even seem a little overwhelming for beginners. But there is also kind of a reciprocal relationship between the practice here where we apply the rules and our body slowly sinks into it. And as we apply the rules, our body slowly sinks into it. And as we apply the rules, we slowly sink into it. So some of them at the beginning may even feel a little bit tricky or a little bit hard to hold for a long period of time. And that's sort of what I mean in that as our body softens and learns to get into correct posture, it will become easier to find those postural cues, easier to sit in them for longer. And this is basically just our strengthening of our body and peripheral sensation, our proprioception of our body, of where it is in space and how our body's sitting. So as we go through, I will be layering different cues. Now, I have a rule I teach in all my classes, which is Qigong Master Says, and this is kind of like Simon Says. So this means if I don't say stop, then you don't stop. Otherwise, we'll be doing some of the postures and I'll stop to like point or do something in my body and you'll just stop. So we won't have a lot of time in this video for me to explain all these physical cues and for us to do a practice, because I want to keep it quite short so it's time effective for you. So as we get into the posture, I'm going to go through three very distinct stages. One is the setup. The setup is you're going to do your practice, you walk up, you stand there, you apply these rules. Then there is the sinking into or the softening into the posture, which is as we begin to take on the shape, physical things occur. Now, we just don't apply these things like in the setup, we just physically get our feet into position. We physically do things with our body. But the second cues are softening into posture. And I'll explain this softening from a balloon breath concept that I'll do once we're in posture, because I'll leave the camera and I'm going to come up close to give a demonstration as you practice so you can apply it. It's called balloon breathing, and it's this way that we create this internal pressure that opens our structure to give us our nice open and full and energized structure, but at the same time we're softening, and I'm going to go into Bruce Lee's quote, soften like water, be soft like water, and how this applies to us in our Qigong. And then lastly, as I said, I'm going to talk about what we're doing in our Qigong posture as you're standing there. And I'll come up closer to the camera because I've got a couple of different cues that I like to give for this. So, with no further ado, let's jump into our practice. I'll just turn my watch on to silent because Siri likes to butt in on my conversation sometimes. Okay, so first and foremost, Qigong is a physical meditation. So if you are doing a morning meditation or an evening meditation as part of your wellness routine, then you can definitely replace that meditation with Qigong. I definitely find Qigong good for people who find seated meditation difficult because it's just a mental exercise, and this has a physicality to it. And meditating on our body is actually one of the best methods we can use as beginner meditators, because bringing our mind back onto physical aspects of our body can actually bring us back into the moment. This is the reason why they say bring your mind back onto the breath, because it's a physical body cue. It's something that doesn't leave you. So as long as you have physical sensation in your body, meditating on the body is an excellent way to bring ourselves back into the present moment, into our body, and embody ourselves. So it's a great meditation, okay? So, first of all, we start with our feet together, okay? Now the instep, or the inside arch of our feet, is parallel, which means there's going to be about half an inch or so distance between the ankle bones on the inside of our foot, but the big toes will be together. Okay, and we're just standing there. We're going to splay our feet out to 45 degrees, and then we're going to turn out through the second and third toe. And you can see in the camera here very clearly, I'm standing with my feet about shoulder width. Okay, the instep, the inside of my feet is parallel. I'm not standing with my feet splayed out. I'm standing with my feet parallel. Okay, now a really important aspect of getting our deep core to activate is the position of our tongue and what we do with the arch of our feet. Okay, so I've got to come up to the camera for a moment to explain something, but just keep this stance as I do. Okay, so there is a point just in front of the heel of the foot, at the back of the arch, right smack bang in the midline of the foot, at the back of the arch, just in front of the heel. I refer to that as the point of central equilibrium. I don't know how it got that name, right? But it has. Okay? Our tongue. Now, if this is the roof of my mouth and my tongue's generally sitting down at the bottom of my mouth, what I want to do is push my tongue up. So the tip of my tongue sits behind my teeth, and the rest of the body, at least 2/3 of my tongue, close up onto the upper palate, the upper aspect of my mouth. Now, a good way to get this to happen is to go with your tongue. Do the first part without the actual sound, where you click it away. Just go, and you feel that very light suction. Now, you don't want to create as much suction as you might with a sound, but you want your tongue to sit in the same position it forms when you go just before the bit happens, right? Now, the deep fascial chain goes from the tip of the tongue down through the larynx, down through the diaphragm, down through the psoas, down through into the muscles that go into the legs, and actually down into the arch of the foot. So what we actually want to do with the arch is actually scrunch my arch, like I'm pulling my toes back towards my heel, which is going to cause the arch of my foot to contract and raise. This is connecting the deep core from the tip of my tongue through my entire body, down through my legs to my feet. Now, if you're a little bit duck-kneed like this, and you've activated your arch, or you've got flat arches, and you've brought them in, you may have noticed your legs have kind of opened up. If this has happened to you, excellent, it's good for you, even if it might feel a little bit strange and a little bit uncomfortable. So we've got our tongue on the upper palate, we've contracted the arch of our feet, we're standing in shoulder width with parallel feet. Okay, teeth are closed behind closed lips. We're only going to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. We are going to raise from the clavicle. So the clavicle are our collarbones here in front of us, where they connect right here into our sternum. There's a point called kidney 27. And if you've ever done any of the freedom, emotional freedom tapping, I can't remember exactly where the points are for emotional freedom technique is, but we tap right where the sternum, the long bone down the breastplate, down here, meets the clavicle. We tap on that in that emotional freedom thing. So what we want here is we want to imagine, and I'm going to exaggerate that I'm slumped forward here, is that we raise the clavicle. And you can see that my shoulders have pulled back. Okay? So we've got nice upright posture. Okay? We don't want to try and lean back by leaning, by opening up too much, but we want to raise. And you'll notice as I do that, my chin lightly tucks in. Okay? Good. So I call this, and on fit men and children, I call this raising from the clavicle, and it's almost like from the center line of my chest, I'm raising, okay? Pulling this up, letting my chin lightly tuck in, okay? Now, as I said in the talk, power posture. When you're walking around down the street, this is an excellent experiment because everyone likes people who are walking around like this. But if you start to walk around with your chest up and you're nice and tall, people look at you and they're like, who the does this person think they are? Good. Feel proud. Stand tall, right? Good. So our feet are parallel. Tongue is on the upper palate. We've scrunched the arches. Teeth are closed behind closed lips. We've raised from the clavicle. Now try and feel like someone has put a fish hook in the top of your head and they're pulling you up nice and tall. But at the same time, let all your body weight sink down through your feet. We want to become a clear conduit for our mass, for our weight to sink into the earth. Now as you've done that, we are now standing in the prime position to sink into posture. So just have a quick march on the spot with me. Just wiggle your body so you're out of posture. And let's go through those postural cues again. We start with our feet together. There is about half an inch between the middle, the internal or the medial malleolus, the ankle bone in the center of my legs. I splay my feet out to 45 degrees and I turn out. So my feet are nice and flush. They're about shoulder width. Try not to sneak them too much wider, even though it may feel like you do. Try to keep them shoulder width. We want to work with our physiological positions. Tongue goes on the upper palate and we scrunch our feet. It's at either end of the chain. Top of the deep fascia chain, bottom of the deep fascia chain. We've activated the arches. That's the bottom of the kidney meridian. Teeth are closed behind closed lips. We've raised from the clavicle, lightly tucked in our chin, and we're suspending from the crown and letting our whole weight sink through our body into that point of central equilibrium, which I pointed out is at the back end of the arch of the foot. Now from there, take a nice big in-breath, and I want you to start sinking your weight. Now I say sink your weight, not bend your knees. Your knees are going to bend, but we don't want to simply bend our knees. We're allowing our body to take up our weight. So as we go here on the out-breath, I'm sitting down. Now you'll notice that there's a bit of an angle here at the front. Okay? So as you sink, I'm going to move. Stay there, Qigong Master says. Right? So, here I have a prop with me, a chair. And you can imagine if you were going to come up and sit on the back of this chair, right? We don't walk right up to it and then sit down, right? We sit somewhat in front of it and we allow our back to drift back as we sit on it, which gives us an angle here. We actually sit back, okay? Now, we're not going to sit back this far in our Qigong because otherwise we'd fall over. However, thank you, chair, for your help there. Okay, so we're standing there in our posture, and as we sink, you can see I'm allowing my back to drift backwards a little bit. So I'm sitting back. This creates a little bit of an angle here in the front of the hips. Good. As we breathe and we sink, so just stand up again because there's a few cues. We've got to take on this posture. Take a nice in-breath. We've raised from the clavicle, tongue. We've raised from our crown. We're letting our weight sink through that point of central equilibrium. As we sink, allow our weight through our pelvis to open. Sit into your hip bones. A lot of people who are really tight here have this kind of, they call it a girdle meridian in Chinese medicine, and it's really tight. And what we want to do is everything's pulling into the center of the spine and it's gripped. So we want to sit into our butt, sit into our hips. Okay? This is open my legs up. So the idea in martial arts and Qigong that we're in horse riding stance is there is a horse in between our legs. Now, fair play, it's a very skinny, weedy little horse. We might not want to sit on a horse that big. So it's my Harley or my Ducati Twin or my CBR 600. They're all motorbikes for those people who don't know. Between my legs, and I've sat down and I've let my weight sink into my heels. Now, we're going to take a breath in and imagine our body is filling up from the inside. And as we breathe out, soften into that aliveness. Okay? We'll go into more detail about this in a moment. This is what we're doing in our Qigong. But just breathing in and softening. Now, as I said, this can be quite a strong exercise. It's an isometric contraction. The definition of an isometric contraction is when the muscle is contracted, but it's not moving. So if I like had a weight in my hand and I lifted it and didn't move it any further but kept it there, soon enough I'm going to get tired, right? My muscle isn't moving, but it's contracted. That is an isometric movement. So we're doing the same. We're squatting, so our legs are going to start working. The lactic acid you feel when your legs start to burn and get sore actually heals liver, heart, and brain. So when you start to feel that burn, you're healing the liver, which is all to do with our emotional regulation, the heart, which is all to do with the emotions, and it is the ruler and the emperor of our body, and you know it sends out the vibrations to the world, and our brain in charge of everything. So there's a lot of connection between these. We're sitting down, okay? You can see I'm in a nice squatted position here, okay? You'll see I'm not leaning back, okay? I'm not leaning forward with my bum out. And of course, if you're standing there, just keep standing there. Feel that weight in your body as I explain. Stand up nice and tall. Now, while you're there, I want you just to tuck your bum under. So that if that's my bum pushed out, just tuck the bum under as you sit there and sit in. They call it horse riding stance because it should feel like you're on your horse, right? You're sitting up nice and tall. Good. Okay. We're sitting there. See, I told you we're already at like 16, 17 minutes or something. So it's a long process. It's not like we can just do a little bit. There's so many little cues here. So pushing up through your legs. I want you to push your weight into the ground and feel that authentic distribution of mass as you push up through your legs to straighten them. Now I'm sure even with that 2 to 3 minutes we stood there then, that some of you were like, ooh, hello my legs. And that is what I talked about this morning. This is our structure being not as strong as it should be to hold our body. And that's what this exercise does. So if, even after the few minutes you're like, wow, I've worked a little bit, understand that if we could build this to 15 or 20 minutes, we have a really strong, powerful exercise. Okay, so we walk up, our feet are together. And if you're still in the position, maybe just come out for a moment, bring your feet back together. Let's go through those postural cues. Feet are together, in step, the arch of our feet are nice and parallel. Spray them out to 45, turn out on the balls of our feet so our feet are at shoulder width. Don't snake them wider. Bring them back, keep them at shoulder width. Tongue goes on the top of palate like we're going to go, holding the tongue on the roof of the mouth. Contract the arches of the feet like the toes will scrunch up, but it's the arches of the feet that are contracted. Closed teeth behind closed lips, breathing through the nose. We have raised from the clavicle, feeling our scapula, our shoulder blades roll back slightly onto our back. We're raising from the crown, we're letting all our weight sink through our body. We're set up. We take a nice in-breath and we let our knees start to bend. We sink, letting our weight come out wide, letting our bum tuck under, letting our chin tuck in lightly, and letting our knees and our weight distribute through the bones of our legs with all of our weight centered on that point of central equilibrium, the back of our arch just in front of the heel. And we're standing. Our knees, they say the knees should be knee over toe. So if I had a stick and I put the stick on my kneecap, it would be just in front of my toes. If you're a little bit more mature and you don't have great knees on that, you could be a little bit higher. Okay? But make sure your knees are bent. I spoke this morning about the body producing heat from the deep core, from having a dense connective tissue network. Okay? This starts to produce the heat for what the Chinese would say is the qi transformation process, the ability for us to make energy. So sink down, get the work happening on the legs, and let's take a look at the arms. For the moment, I want you to breathe into the arms and open up so the arms are pointing down the ground. You'll see that my fingers are nice and open. My thumbs are relaxed, like I could take a drink, okay? They're splayed, they're open. Even though this is called tree pose, I like to think of it as gunslinger. Chink, chink, I'm a cowboy, right? I've got imaginary massive lats or something, and I've got my trigger finger going. Woo, my legs are wide, I've been on my horse all day. Got my 6 shooters by my side. And I'm standing there relaxed. Good. Now, if we let our clavicle down, our shoulders are going to roll forward. So we need to raise from the clavicle and bring our shoulders back. Standing nice and tall. Good. Okay, from here, breath in. Bringing your hands up in front of your chest. Okay? Don't let your shoulders and your scapula come forward and reach like that. Pull your arms back, okay? It is like there is a big circle here and I'm hugging, like I've walked up and hugged a friend, okay? But I'm not going to reach forward with my scapula to hug them. I'm going to be in a nice balanced hug here. The hands just face the body and we stand. Now remember, Qigong Master says, so just staying in this position. Good. Legs are bent. We have closed teeth behind closed lips. Tongue is on the upper palate like we're going to go. We are raised from the crown and lifted from the clavicle. Our bum is tucked under. Our knees are bent and we're sitting into this nice horse stance. The arches on our feet are contracted. Don't allow your knees to come in thin. Open them up. You're sitting on your horse. Okay, standing there. I'll explain further. This is a glove. Okay, this is like our body. Okay, look at that little finger bit there. It's all twisted. That's like tension where we might have an injury that's all bent up and twisted. And you can see all the little crinks in the glove here. That's like all the little crinks in our body. Okay, so we're going to use what we call balloon breath in our Qigong to create this internal pressure to open our body into correct posture and improved posture and then relax back in. Okay, now balloons have the natural quality of being elastic, they're soft, they're durable, and this has been the analogy for our skin and our muscles. And what we want to do, okay, and I'm just putting a little bit of a balloon thing on this, is we're going to every breath in, breathe in and open our body up into improved posture, okay? But then we're not going to go and let all that air out. We don't go and relax. Relaxation isn't a word I like to use in Qigong. I like to use soften. And we are softening onto an improved posture. So we go, and you can see some of the creases have come out, even the little fingers kind of come out a little bit. Our posture's improved, but the glove is still resting on the internal pressure, and so all the little bits and pieces haven't pushed out yet. So we take another in-breath. And we improve the posture, and you can see a lot of the creases have come out. But when we're softening on, this glove is soft on the internal pressure. There isn't tension. The glove hasn't created, see how it's soft? It hasn't created a physical tension in the material to hold it in position. It is held in position because of the internal pressure, and it allows the glove to take on the shape the glove was intended to have, similar to what our body should. So we keep breathing in, and as we do, we get to a point where the glove has no more creases. It is nice and open. It's got a firmness to it, like there's a firmness to the glove, but it's not and relaxed, and it's not rigid. The glove is firm, but still soft. This is what we want with our body. This is what opens up the internal tensegrity of our body. So we're standing there, and I know by now you may have dropped your arms. I hope you haven't, right? It's only been a couple of minutes, but If you are going to drop your arms, this is where that balloon breath comes in beautifully, right? We breathe into our structure, and then as you breathe out, soften everything that doesn't need to work to hold your body in that posture. And you might notice burning in your shoulders, you might notice some neck pain. Any of that pain, discomfort, or tension shouldn't be there. You should be able to just sit here nice and relaxed in this posture. So we breathe in and we soften consciously. Like if you were on the phone call with someone, right, and they'd really irritated you, and you're sitting there and and you suddenly go, oh my God, my head's tense, my arm's tense, like my whole body is tense. You could physically just go, oh, well, relax that tension. We want to do the same thing here. And if you can't relax certain muscle groups in your body as you stand here, it just means that you don't have great nervous connection to those muscles, okay? And they've probably become a little bit atrophied and they've fallen asleep a little bit. So just standing there for longer wakes them up. The pain, the discomfort, the burning, the nerve tingles, everything that's happening is your body going, hello, Nick. You've got all this tension in your neck. Can you feel that? And my brain's like, oh yeah, I can feel that. It hurts. Like, yeah, okay, well, we're going to release that now. Okay, but you've got to take that call. You've got to go through that discomfort. Like any growth in life, we need to go through that little bit of discomfort so our mind and body can connect and can manifest what it needs to manifest. Okay, if you're still standing here, you are an absolute legend. Congratulations. Make sure your knees are bent. Tongue's on the upper palate like you're going to go. Closed teeth behind closed lips. We've raised from the clavicle. We're suspended from above with all our weight sinking through. Our knees are bent. We've opened up into nice hip width. Our pressure is in our hips. Our bum's lightly tucked under. We've got nice open legs. The weight you can feel going through the bones and into the heel. And that weight is centered over just at the back of the arch in front of the heel. Good. Now with the breath out, take a nice big breath in. The breath out, relax your arms down. And we're going to come down to, so excuse me while I come close to the camera. If that's my belly button right there, I'm here, just slightly above my pubic symphysis. My hands are here. I like to think like I'm holding a bowl of water. You can see my elbows are sticking out. They're not here. I'm not collapsed underneath my armpits. Nice and open. And I'm sitting there. Make sure your shoulders haven't collapsed and rounded forward. Stand up nice and tall. Sit in. Good. Now, if you start to do this and you're pushing your times a little bit longer, a couple of things you should be aware of. One, when you're pushing yourself longer, you might start to shake and vibrate a little bit. If that starts to happen too, it may even be happening now. Nice work. Boss moves. It's actually really good for you. This is the lactic acid in your tissues. So because you're not moving, your muscles have started to move for you. They're automatically starting to twitch and shake to help pump out the lactic acid. So if you're shaking and vibrating a little bit, nice work. Okay? You may feel discomfort. Try not to disperse the discomfort. Make sure you are standing in perfect posture and that your discomfort isn't from like your shoulders being rounded or you're leaning back or your bum's poking right out. Stand beside a mirror. Make sure your spine is nice and vertically straight. Make sure you're standing there in a nice open posture. If the pain in anywhere starts, like if you've got shoulder pain, you find you're like cramping up that shoulder, okay, that could be causing pain. So try and relax and allow your body to open up. And this could happen with any body part. It could happen with your hips and you're starting to fall in because you've been standing there, or you may look down and your feet have kind of curved in because the glutes are too tight. Any of these different things can happen, and of course I don't have enough time on this video to go through all the different things that could happen for you. However, the idea is, and that's the basic idea, is that of balloon breathing, is breathe in, open into open, correct posture, and breathe out. And when your mind wanders and you're like, kids' lunches or school or work or whatever it may be, business, Bring your mind back into your body through your posture rules. Is my tongue on my upper palate? My arches contracted? Are my teeth closed behind closed lips? Breathing through the nose, raised clavicle. Bum slightly tucked under and I'm nice and grounded. My legs are open into wide core strength and sitting into my hips. The weight feels like it's going through the center line of my legs, down through the center of my bones, and is weighted just on that point, just in front of the arch, just at the back of the arch, just in front of the heel. And I've got that's nice suspended, so I'm nice and tall, but I'm also allowing all my weight to sink into the earth. Good. If you're still standing here with me for that time, that's not bad, right? That's probably a good 15 minutes or so. Good. So to close off, just bring both your hands into your center. Cup your hands on your lower tummy. If you like, you can raise your feet, your legs up a little bit, okay? Just to take some of the pressure off as you stand there. Good, just taking some nice deep breaths and relaxing for a moment. So, stay there, Qigong Master says. My name is Nicholas Blewett from QiFit, Q-I-F-I-T. Qi is the Chinese spelling for Qi, for energy. If you enjoyed anything I've taught, if you've enjoyed doing this Qigong here with me today, then you may enjoy some of the information I post on Facebook on my personal profile. You can look me up, Nicholas Blewett. That is B-L-E-W-E-T-T. I also have a group called Qi Practice, Q-I Practice. And in that group I give heaps of tips, and in the guide section, which allows me to put content, I have quite a few different Qigong lessons. I definitely teach this, how to get into this posture in that guide section. I teach several Qigong movements in that group, as well as have 2 or 3 different Qigong classes you can follow along with to get a bit of a sample of Qigong and of myself. I also have a few videos in there going over similar information that I talked about today about that triple heater organ, our connective tissue, the tensegrity system and how that affects our body. So if you found that interesting in the chat today, you may really enjoy to join that Qi Practice group. You can find me on Instagram under the same handle, qifit.com.au. And they're probably the 3 best ways to stay in contact with me and view my content as I post. Great, I think that's about me done. Guys, I don't want to leave this video too much longer. So from this position here, you may feel there's a nice bit of warmth building up under your hands. If you felt warm from this exercise, this is one of the aspects that we're trying to create through our Qigong. We're trying to heat and tonify our body, rebuild the energy in our battery system, in our internal organs. And so we can actually get quite warm. Qigong is a workout. There's a lot of people who do it a bit light and fluffy, which isn't a bad thing necessarily either. Serves a purpose. But this exercise I've taught you today definitely is work. And Qigong, quite literally in Chinese, means Qi work or energy work. And so there is meant to be definitely a facet of work. So if you feel a bit worked, realize that it won't be like a gym session. 5 or 10 minutes after this, you'll be like, oh, I don't feel anything. So it's worthwhile remembering that if you are doing some Qigong and wanting to push the length of the Qigong exercise out, that when you are in discomfort, just to smile at yourself and realize that 5, 10 minutes after you finish the Qigong, you won't even feel that discomfort. It won't be like the gym session where the next day you feel sore. Even though your body will scream at you like, what are you doing? You're nuts. Get out of this position. It's hurting you. It's not. And with that, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really nice to meet you all and spend some time sharing Qigong wisdom with you. So we just finish off now by letting our weight sink into the ground through that point of central equilibrium and push up through our legs. And some of you might be like, oh goodness, my knees or my ankles are a bit sore. If that's the case, realize that through letting our weight sink into the ground, your knees and ankles probably haven't had your full weight placed on them. A lot of the time, the tension and the stiffness that we hold in our body suspends our body weight. And so this is maybe one of the first times that your body has felt that much weight going through your legs. And that's great because that's a strength building exercise in its own right. So if you're standing there now, just shifting your weight from leg to leg, just letting your ankles and knees kind of come back to life. They can get a bit numb, or you can experience a bit of pain or even burning in your feet. That's quite natural, and that just has to do with your posture not necessarily being aligned and having force passing through in irregular ways. Of course, we should be able to stand there all day long. Most of the time we're shifting our weight as we talk, or we talk to someone and we're moving around a little bit. But when we just stick in one posture, the unnatural loads in the way it might be passing through our body really scream out to us. So if you're feeling that, that's quite natural. It will dissipate in the next five minutes or so. So guys, thank you so very much. Again, my name is Nicholas Blewett from ChiFit. Thank you so much for inviting me along to the Drop a Chest Size 30-day challenge. If you'd like to hear more from me, let Lee know. I'd be happy to have another chat and do a little bit more Qigong with you. So thank you so much. Hope you're in good health.